Having anyone else today. We're not having the coordinators or the coaches. You'll start that as soon as we get into spring, right? So I'll run through some thoughts and then just answer questions as much as I can. We've had a really good 2 runs the last 2 years. We got into a position after the national championship game in 06 where we said we felt like we had a chance to make a run. Colt got hurt and we didn't finish the season well. And we came back and did beat Iowa and got back on track. And then the next year, it was a year where we started poorly. We got better during the season and kind of fizzled at the end and came back and fought hard to get Arizona State in the Holiday Bowl. But we did not feel like those 2 years were years where we knew every time we walked out there that we were going to win the football game. The last 2 years, even though our team was underrated to start the year last 2 years ago, it's a team that became a team with enough confidence that every time we lined up we thought we could win. And then this year's team, it would have been a disappointment if we didn't win, because there's still some disappointment for our kids and our coaches that 13-1 is not what you want when you have a chance to win all the games. So since the national championship game, we've gone right back to work. It's really an interesting time when you have to change leadership because new guys have to step up. It's a chance for some veterans who haven't played to play or some young ones to get a new spot. So spring practice is really an interesting time for all the players. It's new hope. It's a new team. Even for a guy like myself or our staff, you have to start like it's your first day at Texas. And you have to reinvent your team because each team's a little bit different. You never understand what your chemistry is going to be like. You never understand who your leaders are, and you're constantly trying to teach them and build them, but you're really not sure who and what they are. And then you always try to tweak who you are to your personnel. Sometimes you don't know who that is coming into spring. Garrett will be different than Colt. Colt was very different than Vince Young. So one of the cool and interesting fun things this spring will be to see what changes we're going to make, because Colt became a guy who was as good as anybody in the country's ever been at throwing and completing passes. And we couldn't get away from that because he was so good, 70-something%. You're going to complete 7+ passes out of 10. It's hard not to use him as your weapon when you go in. So the second year in a row now we haven't had a staff change. The good of that is the continuity because of the only losing 2 regular season or 2 games over the last 2 years. The negative is you'd like to have some new ideas. So that's what the change would be as you look at it. So we're currently looking across the country at a lot of different people. We bring in pro guys. We go to different places. People come to visit us. For instance, the Boise State offensive staff's here this morning, and they're going to stay through Friday. So it'll be we've got great respect for Chris Peterson and what they've done on both sides of the ball. So we're constantly trying to share ideas with them. And our staffs visit with people a lot. One of the negative things about starting this early in spring is you don't have a lot of time to get new ideas. One of the negative, or the positive thing is our guys are still excited about getting back because they just got out of bowl practice. And they're ready to go, and they've had great off-season work. We've worked every morning, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 6 in the morning since they got back on middle of January. Nobody's been late. They've been very competitive. They have competed with each other at the highest level. We're having a lot of competitive games in their off-season program, and we're marking down who wins every time. And we're not only marking down who wins the match, if it's tug of war or wrestling or whatever it is, but we're giving points to that side of the ball. And then the side that loses has to carry the trays for the other one at lunch, and the side that wins gets a milkshake, unless you're a lineman. Then you get something dietary. But a lot of new faces in the spring, and it's fun for them to have their chance. Even a guy maybe have been here 3 years and hasn't had a chance, in his mind has a chance. On the negative side of that, there's much fewer players. A fourth of your team's not here for next fall, and now that we're all playing freshmen, it really hurts you. So you don't have as much depth in the spring, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But we've told the older guys that get you a spot this fall or this spring, or we're going to look at other guys in the spring. or get your spot this spring, or we'll look at other guys in the fall. So that's fair. So don't come in August and say, Coach, I want my chance. No, you've got your chance right now. So these spring practice days will give you an opportunity to step up and show what you can do. We should have a very physical spring because we got so many young guys that need to play that haven't played very much. When you've got an older team like last year's offense, some of those guys didn't need to hit a lot. I learned something from Steve Spurrier a long time ago. He said that the older guys don't need to hit much because they've been playing 3, 4, 5 years. The younger guys need to hit a lot because they haven't tackled much. They've got to get used to the speed of the game and being physical. But you've only got so many great snaps out of your seniors. So if they've done everything right every time they play, be smart with them. You don't have to have them out there looking good every scrimmage and let some other guy step up and earn his stripes because those guys have played a lot of snaps during the game. Leadership is always something that concerns you. Last year I was really concerned at this time about our defensive leadership. And it happened. The coaches did a great job of making it step up, and you look at McElroy and Sergio Kendall and Lamar Houston and Earl Thomas really stepped up. Blake Gideon and those guys became great leaders on our defense. Our offense had leaders built in. Coming back with Quan gone, you had Jordan and you had Colt, you had Ulatowski, you had Chris Hall and Charlie Tanner. So you had some older guys there that you felt like knew what they were doing. But now what we do every time we meet is we put an asterisk by the guys that we feel like are leaders or the guys that should be leaders. We put an asterisk by the ones that a different color asterisk by the ones we feel like are concerns. And if they're a leader and they haven't bought in, it can be a very negative situation. One of your best leaders that doesn't like you as a coach, your philosophy, or your team can hurt your team more than anything else. When you're thin in the spring and you're looking at young guys, we're doing more cross-training than ever before. It's something that Dick Tomey brought us. He always said in recruiting, you ought to try to sign a guy that can play 11 spots. And the more spots a guy can play, if he can't play the one you thought he could, he has other opportunities. Quarterbacks, it's more difficult. For instance, Garrett's going to play quarterback. He's not going to play any other spots. But if you can get a skilled guy, a defensive end, maybe could play tight end, outside linebacker, 2 ends, both of the defensive end spots, it really helps us when we look at that. And we'll talk about depth chart more in just a minute. Marquise Goodwin will be on track alone. That was our agreement with him coming out of high school. So he will not participate in spring practice this spring. And we think he has a chance to get to the Olympics. He is really, really special at what he does. It was obvious to us that he didn't work out all summer with football. He didn't catch a ball till he got here, and he looked real good and real fast for us. So we think he is an outstanding player for our future. He's done everything right. He's becoming a leader on our team. He had outstanding grades, and we think he can do the same for track that he did for football this year. And we'd like for him to be one of the best track stars for our track team in the country. Injuries, those will be released by John. You may already have them. They won't let me talk about them a lot. In spring, you can get by with some guys like Aaron Barnett is freed to practice, but he is not going to be able to have full contact. So we'll put him in a green jersey. He can do everything, but he will not have contact. He'll be in position to have contact. You just got to be careful with his shoulder that he doesn't get knocked down or fall down. And usually the kids handle that pretty well because it gives him a chance to be out there. Blaine Irby's situation has simply not changed. He is in a position where he will miss spring, and they'll continue to monitor him, but he will not be out there this spring. Ian Harris, I think we had said before, Ian is a young man that got a medical, and he will no longer play football. I think that was back in the spring.